I think it might be time to break up the Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons duo in Philadelphia, man. Game 7 loss to the Atlanta Hawks. I got to give a big shout out to the Atlanta Hawks. They continue to exceed my expectations, and now they're a conference finals team, knocking off, I would say, the heavily favored Philadelphia 76ers, number 1 seed. I'm here to talk about, man, it's Rick Knows Hoops. Welcome back. I'm your host, Tyreek. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. It's a place where we talk about NBA basketball, so if you love hoops, this is the place for you. And like I said, big shout out to the Atlanta Hawks, man. Me and my dad were talking before this game, and he made a very good point. Like, he was basically saying, like, clearly Philly's the more talented team. And I think a lot of people can agree with that. Philly's the more talented team. But he said he thinks that Trae Young has the most guts and the most heart on the court. Even though he may not be the best player on the court, he thinks he plays with the highest level of confidence, and he plays with an extreme level of just, heart and a will to win. And ultimately, I think that was part of the difference in this series, man. Even though Trae Young didn't have an amazing shooting game tonight, his impact's always there, man, because even on his off nights, he's still making extremely well. I mean, I think he's had double-digit assists in at least like 5 of the 7 games in this series. And I know in every single playoff game, he's had, I think, 20 points and 7 assists. Like, that's a ridiculous stat. I think that's the longest streak in NBA history. Shout out to Trae Young. But this Atlanta Hawks team just continues to exceed my expectations, man. They started off 14-20. We talked about this so many times. They started off the season 14-20. Nate McMillan replaces Lloyd Pierce as the head coach. And then this team just takes off from there. Trae Young hits a new level. He becomes just an even more effective player. And other guys like Bogdanovich start playing well. Gallinari, Clint Capella, the list goes on. Kevin Huerter. When he was in the lineup, DeAndre Hunter was playing really well. I mean, this Atlanta Hawks team, the addition of Lou Williams, they've really just come together as a whole, and they won this series, man. Philly, I don't want to say Philly lost it, man. I got to give the credit where it's due to the Atlanta Hawks. I got to give it to Trae Young because I was hypercritical of Trae Young early on in the season when he wasn't playing that well, and he's definitely stepped up his play, and he's just gotten better and better as this postseason has gone along. His first Game 7, he helped lead this team to a victory. Got to give a big shout out to Kevin Huerter. My bad. Big shout out to Kevin Huerter for a team high 27 points. That's a big time performance from him. Bogdanovich was injured, but he still gave it a go. He only played 21 minutes and didn't really shoot the ball that well. But you got to give a lot of credit to a guy, playing with a knee injury and being able to just still give his team what he can give. John Collins, Clint Capella both had very effective games, I would say. And it's hard not to talk about Philly. Even though the Atlanta Hawks won this game, it's very hard not to talk about Philly because it's like what's next? It's a what's next situation. We talked about this with a lot of teams, like the Portland Trail Blazers. We have already seen the Boston Celtics make moves. A lot of contending teams, the Lakers are going to try and shake up their roster a little bit. Philly, this was their best opportunity within these last 4 years, I think, to win the championship. Especially with the Brooklyn Nets losing last night. This was their best opportunity to win it all, and they didn't get that job done. They didn't get it done. And, that I think they just had a trouble of it's a lot. I think it's a lot with this team that was just wrong in this series, man. The inability to close games was key. Embiid, Ben Simmons, they did not play their best ball in these last 3 games. Embiid was really effective tonight offensively, but down the stretch, they weren't there. Down the stretch, they weren't effective, and it was a close game down the stretch, and they were unable to get baskets. They were unable to get shot attempts because they were turning the ball over. And I just think I can't see a world where this duo is together next season. I really can't see a world where Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are on the court, both in Philadelphia 76ers uniforms. Now, do I think that means they're going to blow it up and trade everybody? No, I don't think that by any means. But I do think this is probably like Ben Simmons' last game as a Philadelphia 76er. And it's tough. It's tough because I'm a very appreciative fan of Ben Simmons. I understand what he brings to the table. But for this team to reach its next level, to reach championship level, which is what this team wants to be, I don't think they can do it with Ben Simmons as their lead guard. And that is just because he does everything so well, but he has the one hole, and it's the biggest hole that a guard can have in today's NBA. He can't shoot the ball. And not only can he not shoot the ball, he struggles with his free throws, and that him being a poor free throw shooter affects him attacking the basket. It affects him being an aggressive offensive player. I mean, the guy's 6'10". He can get to the basket whenever he wants, but he doesn't really look to get to the basket because I think he's mentally afraid to go to the free throw line. And we've seen this with point guards in the past. I remember Rajon Rondo used to be that way too. He would not attack the basket because he didn't want to go to the free throw line. And we see that just a lot with guards that cannot shoot the ball. They just don't attack the basket even if they're gifted in that department. And Ben Simmons is one of those guys. But, I mean, he does everything else extremely well. Like, very good playmaker, amazing defender, one of the best defenders in the league. He really guarded Trae Young very well in this series when he had the assignment. If Trae Young goes 5 for 23 like he did tonight, 2 for 11 from 3, you expect Philly to be able to win that game. I mean, that is exactly what you would want a Trae Young game to look like if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's the Ben Simmons effect. Defensively, he is that guy. Defensively, he's that guy. But when it comes to his offense, he obviously is not a jump shooter. He struggles from the free throw line, which affects him attacking the basket. And it hinders this Philadelphia team. It really does because, overall, he's like their second best player, but he offensively doesn't really bring much other than his playmaking to the table. And I just think, like, as difficult as it is for me to, say, and I know it's just right after the game, but I just don't think this Philadelphia 76ers team can hit their ceiling with Ben Simmons as their starting point guard. So, of course, you're going to see a lot of trades drawn up in the offseason, like probably Damian Lillard. You're going to see a lot of, guys like that. Any star that's in a weird situation, you will probably see them, have their name thrown in the Ben Simmons trade. You might see Kyle Lowry linked to the Philadelphia 76ers. There's going to be a lot of guys that's going to be linked to this Philadelphia team. But I really do believe I don't see Ben Simmons being the 76er next season. And, yeah, it's tough. Doc Rivers, we gave him a lot of we gave him a lot last year after he blew a 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets in the bubble when he was with the Clippers. And I just think I seen this little stat that Doc's blown a lot of series. He's been a part of teams that have blown a lot of series. Let me rephrase that. And it's just, as a coach, it sticks with you on your resume when it's stuff like that. Like, that is just something that's going to follow you until you get it done. And, I mean, other than winning the championship in 2008 with the Celtics, I mean, Doc Rivers has made, I think one conference finals since then. And since he left Boston, he hasn't made a conference finals. I don't want to, he gets fired from the Clippers, and now the Clippers are a conference finals team for the first time ever. I'm not saying this series is on Doc Rivers, but as a head coach, you clearly have the more talented team. You have the more talented team. You are down a starter, but they're down a starter too. You have the more talented team, and kind of mishandled this series just a little bit, man. I mean, there's no way if you're a head coach, you should blow a 25-point lead. And then, game before blow a 15-point, lead late. There's no way that you should do that as a head coach when you have an extremely talented team. And, this is a team that I've been, extremely high on all season long. And they really didn't hit their peak, I don't think. They didn't hit their peak. And they let the Atlanta Hawks, I think, get even more confident than what they already are. This is already a very confident team. But once you let these shooters and Trae Young and guys get super confident and they know that they can play with you, they know that they can beat you, they know that they can go in Philly and win 3 games, it's hard to beat a team like that. It's really hard to beat a team like that. So you got to give credit where it's due. The Atlanta Hawks beat the Philadelphia 76ers. And Philly, there's going to be a lot of changes in the offseason, man. Probably big moves. Daryl Morey is not afraid to shake it up. The James Harden trade was on the table. They just didn't pull the trigger. Or I think the Rockets didn't want to pull the trigger. Something weird like that. But the James Harden trade was on the table. So, Daryl Morey is not afraid to make any moves that will better this team. So, they made some good moves last offseason. The Seth Curry move was great. But it's got to be a little more. It's got to be more than the Seth Curry. So, look, put me on the record, man. Ben Simmons is not going to be a Philadelphia 76er next season. And Ben Simmons is my guy. I really appreciate his game so much because he brings so much to the table. And people focus on the one negative. But his one negative is big. And maybe on another team it wouldn't be as big. But it affects this team so much. It really affects this team so much on the offensive side of the ball. And it was a part of their downfall. There was a lot more than just Ben Simmons. A lot of guys, I think, a lot of guys underachieved in this playoff run, but a lot of focus is gonna be on Ben Simmons, man. You're an all-star. You're an all-NBA player, a couple of times. You've been an all-NBA player. You've been an all-star. A lot of pressure's on you, man, and you gotta perform, man. You can't only take 4 shots. You can't just go 2 for 4, man. Even though you get the 13 rebounds, you get the 8 assists, man. You got to be more effective on the offensive side of the ball because you got it in your game. You have it in your game. You're a former number 1 overall pick, and you got that kind of stuff in your game, man. I just think it's the mental part of the game for Ben Simmons, man. But we got to give just the credit to the Atlanta Hawks. I know I keep saying it, but we have to give them the credit because they were the underdogs in this series. They had more heart than the Philadelphia 76ers. They go into Philly and win 3 times. And they win a Game 7 on the road. This young team with little playoff experience. Lou Will, Gallinari, Clint Capella, those are the only guys. And Solomon Hill with playoff experience on this team. They go into Philly, win a Game 7. And now they're a conference finals team. And I think they have a legit chance of making it to the NBA Finals, man. I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks, very good team. But I think this series, I'm done. I'm done counting out the Atlanta Hawks. I'm done counting them out. This team is as real as it gets, man, and this is their first playoff run together. Credit them to going all in, putting the talent around Trae Young that fits his game. They made the moves in the offseason, the Bogdanovich, the Gallinari. They made the Clint Capella trade last season. They made these moves. They put the talent around Trae Young, and he's thriving. This team is thriving, and now they have a chance to go to the finals, man. 4 wins away from getting to the NBA Finals, and the season just continues to get even more crazy than it's already been. And let's move over to the Western Conference, man. I talked about that Game 7, that series, for about 12 and a half minutes. So let's get back over to the West, man, because the Phoenix Suns win Game 1. Devin Booker is him. Devin Booker is nothing to play with, man. 40-point triple-double. First conference finals game ever. No Chris Paul. Of course, no Kawhi Leonard either, but Devin Booker stepped up in the playmaking role, and he was as amazing as it can get offensively, man. Completely in his bag. I'm going to keep saying it until I just see it becoming normal. Give this man his respect, his credit. He didn't make an All-NBA team. I'm not going to get into the All-NBA teams because I'm not going to say anybody didn't deserve to make it. But Devin Booker was definitely a deserving name that could have got a spot in the All-NBA team. And he was as elite as it can get. He's been as elite as it can get in this postseason run. And keep in mind, just like Trae Young, this is Devin Booker's first postseason run. The young players in this league, they have the league in great hands. I mean, when all of our favorite guys retire, all of the legends that we know, like the LeBrons, the KDs, the Hardens, the Kyries, Steph Currys, blah, blah, blah. When those guys decide to call it quits, man, we got Book, we got Trae Young, we got Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum. We got a whole bunch of guys, Donovan Mitchell. We have a whole list of guys that are here. They're here right now. John Morant, Zion. We have a whole plethora of guys that they're going to be able to, give us this, great moments too. And Devin Booker, Trae Young, these guys are performing right now in their first playoff run. Got to show a lot of love to those guys. Devin Booker, amazing in this Game 1. As for the Clippers, I mean, they just played the other night, so you don't really expect them to come out. But they came out. They played a really good game. They played a very good game. I just think Monty Williams had a very good game plan, and I really like what I've seen from the Phoenix Suns. But this is going to be a series. I really do believe this is going to be a series because this Clipper team, for some reason, since Game 2 in Utah, they're playing like they have nothing to lose. Like they are playing like a team with the utmost confidence. And I don't think we really saw that all the way through that Dallas series. But since Game 2 against Utah, they're playing with an extreme level of confidence that I love to see. And, of course, they're not better without Kawhi, but guys are stepping up with the absence of Kawhi. Like, when a star player goes down, you need guys to be able to step up. And we've seen guys step up for this team. The Terrence Manns, Patrick Beverley's been good for them, Marcus Morris has been okay. Like, guys are really stepping up, and I know I'm forgetting some guys, but guys are stepping up to the plate. Reggie Jackson, he's been amazing. And, of course, Paul George, give him his respect, too, because he's been very elite in this playoff run. He's been playing great basketball, so give him his respect, too. This is going to be a series, I do believe. Hopefully, Chris Paul and Kawhi make it back by the time we get to L.A. for Game 3. That's all I can hope, man. I want to see these teams at full strength because I believe that would be classic basketball. I believe that would just be classic basketball. I think the coaching matchup is good. I know hypercritical on Ty Lue sometimes, but I want to say for the most part, he's made some very, very good moves in this postseason. He's had some blunders. He's had some blunder moments for sure, But there have been times where he's made some very, very good decisions. And, of course, Monty Williams, one of the best coaches in the league that's not talked about. Shout out to James Jones, the GM for the Phoenix Suns, on winning Executive of the Year, man. Big shout out to James Jones. Man, these conference finals, I'm excited for these games, man. The Atlanta Hawks making it, I think, the second time in franchise history. That's kind of crazy. And then also, they'll be playing the Milwaukee Bucks, and then the Phoenix Suns have a 1-0 lead against the Clippers, man. It's Rick Knows Hoops. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm going to be back next time with another one, y'all. Peace.